Come take my hand and see the world around you. The time is right, just let the light surround you. And step by step you feel it coming alive. The feeling deep down inside.
The best memories are made when you take the road less traveled. Visit wanderingbutnotlost.com for some inspiration.
Today on Wanderings In, we have two special guests in the Wandering But Not Lost podcast studio. Mr. David Townsend, who is a returning guest on our podcast. So welcome back, David. And Sue Ann Bird. Townsend's like one of my besties. Suzanne, one of his besties. I'm going to turn it over. Townsend, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And then we'll turn it over to Sue Ann, who is really the reason why we're here today. Because since we've all been trapped in our homes for now a month, depending upon where you are in the world, we are trying to deliver up some content of places you might want to put on your bucket list or your travel list once you're free to actually escape your domicile. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about. Suzanne's from Minnesota. So we're going to hear all about the land of 10,000 lakes, etc. And I'm not going to say anymore because I would probably just not know what I'm talking about with Minnesota. So Townsend, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm currently in Los Angeles. That's where I live, and I have waiting desperately to get a haircut, but I don't know when that'll happen soon. And Sue Ann and I have known each other for a very long time. We met in college in Chicago, and miraculously, Sue Ann wasn't there very long, but we maintained a friendship for many, 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 many years. And she lives in a suburb of Minneapolis, where I travel to often. In fact, I was just there in February. Wow. And in fact, we went on a tour of a house, and someone asked who was from the furthest distance, and I said yes. And there was a strange woman next to, not a strange woman, but a stranger next to Sue Ann. And I said, why? And we were like, why am I from Los Angeles? She said, why are you here?
Oh. Wah, wah.
But Minneapolis is great. I mean, I love going there. We've gone there in the summer. There's they have a really vibrant art scene, and then they also have some very, very unusual things. Like, so I can tell you more about it. But like, ice fishing is a big thing for them in the winter.
And hey, Minneapolis has got a bitchin' airport because I've been there several times. I love the Minneapolis airport. It's awesome.
It's good.
Sue Ann, tell us a little about you and and about how you ended up in Minnesota and where you are in Minnesota. I guess give us a lay of the land.
I was born and raised in Minnesota.
Okay.
Left to go to college where I met David a couple years ago in Chicago and came back here. I live in Chaska, Minnesota. I moved here 2 years ago, originally from Minnetonka. We're a suburb of Minneapolis. We're about 20 minutes away. But as David can tell you, in Minnesota, you're pretty much 20 minutes from anything. You're 20 minutes from the airport, you're 20 minutes from downtown, you're 20 minutes to my daughter's, it's 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
And why I'm back here, my family's here. My parents were here. My kids are all here now, so this is where I live.
I don't know if either of you ever seen the television show, I think it's on Smithsonian Channel, Aerial America. You ever seen that show? You should check that out if you have a chance to. It's a show that just literally flies over every state. So there's 50 some odd episodes because they do other stuff. And I always love it when the whole like northern part of the country, they have the shows. And the Minnesota episode is so beautiful. The state is so green. And I didn't realize actually there was so much fall foliage, but I guess that totally makes sense, right? So
there's a lot of foliage here. I think the first time David came, you had commented about the trees. There's lots of trees, and
it's very interesting. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No.
One of the things that was striking to me is I was there last year at Labor Day, which was early September, and the leaves, they're so far north, leaves are already starting to turn.
Right. That's wild.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to New England during the fall, but I think really anywhere along that area. And like I said, I'm always just blown away by the topography and the scenery in Minnesota because it is just so dense and so lush, and so much of the state is wild, right?
It is.
Yeah. So go through some of your favorite places, Sue, and the places you like to go and some of the things that you like to do. If we had a wanderer that was flying into Minneapolis and got past throwing their hat up in the air like Mary Tyler Moore, what are some of the things right around there that they could go and do if they were going to spend, a few days in the area there?
Well, in Minneapolis, I mean, David was right. We have lots of arts, lots of gardens, lots of, we have the number one um, arboretum, which is literally 5 minutes down the street in the
It's
country.
stunning too.
I've heard
Um,
that.
we have art galleries. Our theater district here is phenomenal. We have the Guthrie, lots of theater downtown. I would love to take somebody that would come for more than 2 days up to the North Shore, and it's all rocks and like you were saying, the foliage and there's skiing mountains up there. It's so different than down here. It's crazy. Then I think we'd cut over across and go over to Walker, Minnesota, towards the Leech Lake area, which is a lot of Indian reservations, but it's all forestry.
Oh,
They don't necessarily have the colors that the Duluth and the Lake Superior area would. There are a lot of maples and stuff over there that's more golden colors in the fall. And then, and you go out west here, and our farms are beautiful. They're like still the old-fashioned farms with the silos and the big red barns, and
that's awesome.
it's pretty. And it's it's a metropolitan city feel. But I've always feel very safe when I'm downtown. I mean, it's nice.
What do they grow? What are the crops that grow in Minnesota? Is there like a main crop that soybeans?
Corn.
I'm going to add something there. I learned something. I was there last September, and we went to the fair, which is one of the largest fairs in the country. And what we discovered isn't the Arboretum run by a university there?
By the University of Minnesota.
And one of the things that they do, I learned at the fair, is they create apples. In fact, they created the Honeycrisp apple.
Oh, okay.
And they grow them, and they specialize. And at the fair they had a brand new apple.
Oh,
within a couple years you'll be able to buy around the country. But it was fascinating. They literally, the university and the arboretum, grow and create brands of apples.
Yep.
I've heard about that arboretum, and I would love to get there someday because I've heard it's
beautiful, and it's beautiful every time of year. In the wintertime, it's decorated for the holidays, and the spring is the flowers. And when David was there in the fall, the leaves are turning, and he loved this algae pond that was so full of algae. It was just.
I remember seeing pictures of those.
But it was this amazing green color. You're just like, it was like a color you couldn't believe was made in nature. But it was just beautiful. But the whole pond was just covered in this green
algae.
Well, hey, it's not something you see on Sunset Boulevard, so
no,
I can see why you were, taken by the algae of Minnesota.
It was fascinating. It was beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the whole concept of ice fishing, because it fascinates me. David sent me a picture yesterday, and it kind of creeped me out a little bit. And I just want to hear a little more about, let me first of all, are you an ice fisher woman, or is it just the familia that gets out there and does their?
It's just the familia. Ask David. Am I a nice person? No.
No. In fact, the first time she ever went was last year, and she went with us because Austin, her son-in-law, wanted to take me, and so I wanted to try it. And here's the thing: the concept that is fascinating to me. It's a gigantic lake, and we load into a 4-door truck, F10 truck, 5 of us, and we drive out on the ice to this ice house, and then we go inside, and there's 6 holes drilled in the ice. You can see there, but there's like a bed in there, and there's like a refrigerator, and it's fascinating. Of course, Sue Ann wanted to keep the doors open the whole time we were on the ice.
I'm petrified of the ice, but no, my daughter and son-in-law are huge ice fishermen, and I mean, it seriously is grumpy old men. Watch it. I laugh every year. It becomes little villages. They name the streets. The truck plows plow the roads for the cars to go out there. And some people literally will move out there for the winter and then go home twice a week and shower and stay in their ice house.
That's interesting. That's
really fascinating.
What are you fishing for? What's the fish that's for the primary fish that you catch?
Walleye.
Okay, never heard of that, but that's
crappies, bass, sunfish.
All right. So, okay. So it's wide selection that are.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of walleye either, but the day that we went out there, we actually caught a bunch of fish, and then we went back to the house that night and swam, did a fish fry.
Oh, so that's your role in the ice.
I do the fish fry.
I
Yep.
gotcha. So, okay, Mr. Townsend, since you were out there doing your fishing, how thick was the ice in the hole? I mean, you could tell how thick the ice would have been.
Well, I think her son said on average it needs to be. It's usually somewhere between 15 and 17 inches thick, which seems really, really thick. But when you're out there, shouldn't it be like 25 inches thick? I don't know.
It is a weird concept.
But
I would actually know what I would do that in a minute, because it would be fun to go do that, even though it is kind of in the back of your mind. You're like, okay, let's do the math on this. There's 10,000 people here cutting holes in the ice.
And it's hundreds and hundreds. Like, you go to areas where it's hundreds of ice houses. I mean, it's like a city. And then there's all
they're
the
not
cars.
small. I mean, the ice house that Stuan's family has, there were 4 of us in this ice house. 4.5 though, and a baby there. It was perfectly comfortable. It was in one room, but it still is big. It's
like a camper.
fascinating.
Yeah. Well, they are campers. Yeah. No, it's crazy.
It's fascinating.
And
they go there and they spend the night and all that.
But no heater or anything, right? Because that would be.
Oh, no, there's heat.
Okay, so now I got to ask the question. So let's turn on the heat. Let's turn on the heat for a second, shall we? I know we're on ice, so what could possibly happen? No, that's interesting. All right. So we're going to post some pictures in the show notes, because I know, Townsend, you had that one, or excuse me, David, we didn't introduce you as Townsend. That picture you sent yesterday, but I'm sure that you have other pictures, or Sue Ann, if you could send some pictures, that'd be awesome, because I would love to just post some pictures of people actually doing it. Because when you see that in movies, I mean, unless you've experienced it, it just looks so unreal. It doesn't look like you could. I mean, I know people do it, but it just seems so like that's not possible.
I have mostly what I have from February is what I sent you, but I do have some pictures from last year when we went out, and it was of the actual ice house and the truck sitting next to it, which still boggles my mind. It's like this gigantic truck on the ice. Yeah,
it seems like architecturally that should not work.
It should not work.
Nature, it's a wonderful thing.
It is.
So what else? So, okay, I know you have a cabin up in the woods. So, I mean, has that been in your family for a long time? And what do you? I mean,
yeah, my grandfather built that cabin. It's been in the family for 60, 70 years. We have no running water. It is very cool. It's a big old log cabin. In Minnesota, people, it's every weekend they either are on the lake fishing or they're at their cabin. I mean, with our seasons, we really embrace sun, warmth, fall days. I mean, we're outside.
Right.
And like I told you today, I call this wind spring. It was 70 degrees on Monday, and it is snowing here today.
Wow.
And this time of year's awful. You never know what to wear, how to dress, or where to go. So when it's nice, we're outside. Our parks are busy. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would imagine that anybody that lives in the city, I'm sure, has a lake house or something there, or at least knows somebody that's got a lake house. Because
exactly.
We went to one year. We went to if you lived in the city, like in Minneapolis or something, there's all kinds of public gardens, and there's this amazing museum that's actually a park. So all of the exhibits and things are gigantic exterior. Like there's one that was, and I can send you a picture. There's this one. This is gigantic tree filled with wind chimes.
Wow.
And so you can go. You're at the museum, but you're outside, and you can just wander. And there's exhibits everywhere. It's really, really amazing. And
no, go ahead.
No, that is. You can just see that they really do embrace their time outside when they get it, because I can tell you it gets cold there in the winter.
Yeah, and think about it. So when does your weather really kind of start sucking you guys in? Is it like in November? Is it that early on, or is it, or even earlier?
Well, we've had it as early as Halloween.
Oh wow,
October 31st. But yeah, definitely like Thanksgiving, and I'm sure if we would drive around, I could probably still find some little tiny snow piles. You go 3 hours north of here, and they're still ice fishing on the lakes. Our lakes are open here right now, so I mean it's a good 6 months of snow in winter, for sure. 5 months solid.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that takes out a lot of your year. So I can understand why the minute that the sun comes out, everyone's like, ah, let's go.
Well, yeah, 'cause
Let's hit the road.
in the wintertime when it's sunny, it's freezing cold here. So when it's sunny, you're not outside. And when I'm saying cold, I mean, it can be 40 below zero wind temperature with a 50, 60 degree below wind chill. So it's not nice outside.
Yeah, a little different than we're experienced with out here in California. But so you already know what it's like to be in the house for a month at a time.
Absolutely. This is nothing new.
Yeah, except for I'm sure you're aching to all get out and do your thing. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when this all blows over, when it all blows over, and we can get out and start doing some of the things that we normally do again. I know that one of the first things I'm going to do, if I can, is that you were going to get in the car and head up to Yosemite because I just miss being in the mountains so bad. So that is like one of the first things on my list. So, what's the first thing you're going to do when you feel like it's okay to run out there and do your thing? Do you have something you want to do?
Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to go into a shopping mall.
I get that. I do.
And David, I do order stuff online, but I'm not a fan of it. I think to keep those small businesses, I'm a real textile. I like to touch things.
Sure.
I think that's where I'll go. And then, I mean, this doesn't go away. We're head up north, and they don't want us up there because we don't have a lot of that up there. So, right. But I'm saying we might just, I mean, stay around us.
Yeah.
Tons.
Yeah, I know. I actually never asked you this question, David. So what's your go-to place when you're free?
Well, I actually had reservations to go to Yosemite tomorrow for the Easter weekend, and of course they canceled them because the parks are closed until at least the end of February, end of March. I would love to go up there. I'd love to just go to the country, and it is one of my go-to places, and
yeah, exactly.
And I was talking to somebody the other day about, do we think travel will be the same? And I think that one of the first things I would want to do in the long haul is go back to Europe, go back to France. Yep. I mean, when this is done, we have to get back into our lives and get out there.
It's funny to listen to people talk about, predicting what they think is going to be, happen and how everyone's going to get back into it. And it kind of ranges of the spectrum of like, no one's ever going to touch anyone again to, it's going to be business as usual. And I think, it'll probably be something in between there. But I think people will get back into things faster than they won't, I think, just because I think it's just human nature and people are so used to it. I mean, I suppose the real answer to that question was I'm going to Disneyland, but which actually will be on my list, I have to say, but it's not the first thing I want to do. I don't. You want to ease back into people. I don't want to. If you want to go from 0 to 50,000 all in one day.
Right.
All right.
I think it'd be really interesting when restaurants open.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be insane.
Yeah. I know. We were in a mode where we go out to eat a lot, and we were looking to, we were doing a lot of cooking and stuff, and we were kind of missing food, and I wanted a pizza so badly. And we hadn't been ordering things for delivery, but we broke down over the weekend and had something delivered because I mean, come on. It's like, it's hard to go cold turkey.
It is. Well,
yeah.
They need business or they won't be there.
Well, that's true too. Absolutely. All right, you guys. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us today. You know what? I've always wanted to go to. I've actually been through Minnesota. We were on a road trip and we drove through Minneapolis, and that was kind of my whole Minnesota experience. So I can say I've been there, but that's kind of cheating because if you just drive through some place, you haven't really experienced it. But I really need to get there, and maybe someday I can. When you're there, Townsy, I can meet up with you guys. It would be a great time. It'd be awesome. It'd be super fun. So we need to plan on that. We're going to put pictures in the show notes. I'll have a map in there that kind of points out some of the things that Sue Ann had talked about, places that she would take the crew if they were there for more than a couple days. And all of that will be available over at WBNLpodcast.com or wanderingbunnotlost.com as well. Thank you so much, Sue Ann, for taking some time out of your schedule today. I know we're all so very busy at home. And David, as always, great to talk to you. David and we have challenged each other this month to close our rings for an entire month on our Apple Watches, and it's the 10th. Oh, it's the 9th, and it's not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
No. In fact, I have to get out of the house because I've got 30 minutes of exercise to get done.
Yeah, we got to wrap this up. Things to do. Anyway, thank you guys very much. And remember, everyone, be forever wandering, but not lost.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
All right.